Welcome to this explainer. We are diving right into an absolute masterclass of a business story today. We're going to unpack the fascinating, incredible underdog story of how a relatively small South Asian business transformed a simple observation at an airport into a massive, multinational, fast-moving consumer goods empire. This isn't just a story about noodles. It's a complete playbook on opportunity recognition, regional brand building, and internationalization.
1 billion. That's a billion with a B. That is how many packets of Wai Wai noodles are sold in India alone. It's a staggering number, and it perfectly highlights the sheer, undeniable scale this brand eventually achieved. To go from a curious observation to moving a billion packets in one of the world's most competitive markets is just an extraordinary business journey.
To see how they pulled this off, we're going to break down their playbook into 5 distinct steps: the airport observation, creating a new category, the regional launchpad strategy, taking on the giant, and finally, building a global empire.
Part 1. The airport observation, or how a simple observation beat raw invention.
Picture this. It's the early 1980s. Entrepreneur Binod Chaudhary is standing near a baggage conveyor belt in Bangkok, and he notices something super weird. Huge quantities of instant noodles are coming off the belts. Nepalis traveling back from Thailand were stuffing these noodles into their personal luggage instead of typical duty-free souvenirs. Instead of just shrugging it off, he actually investigated. He found out about the Thai preserved food factory, which had been making Wai Wai brand noodles since 1970. In that moment, he turned a curious consumer habit into a massive, massive opportunity.
Here's the thing. The genius wasn't in inventing a brand new noodle from scratch. It was classic entrepreneurial adaptation. Thailand had already created the original Wai Wai brand, right? But Nepal turned it into a South Asian business phenomenon. In 1984, Chaudhary's company set up its very first factory in Kathmandu under a technical collaboration. He simply recognized what people already wanted and brought it home.
Moving to part 2, creating a new category. This is the product tweak that literally changed everything.
Back then, instant noodles strictly meant you had to boil water and cook them. But Wai Wai was designed entirely differently. The noodles were already pre-cooked, soup-sprayed, and fried, complete with 3 additional taste enhancer sachets right there in the packet. You could boil it, make soup, or mix it up, but the real kicker? You could literally just rip open the wrapper and eat it dry, straight from the pack.
Think about how huge that is. Because of that brilliant differentiation, it wasn't just a meal anymore, it was an anytime snack. Wai Wai carved out this totally new, highly lucrative space right between traditional instant noodles and packaged snacks. It wasn't just some imported convenience food, it actually became an embedded daily habit in Nepali culture. And let me tell you, once your product becomes a daily habit, competing against you becomes incredibly difficult.
All right, Part 3. The regional launchpad strategy, how to dominate a niche before going national.
So let's talk about India. It is a notoriously massive and intimidating consumer market. Most brands would burn millions trying to launch nationally on day one. Not Wai Wai. They laser-focused on Northeast India first, places like Assam, Sikkim, and North Bengal. Why? Because it was geographically close to Nepal, and the local culture was already incredibly receptive to the product. This intense regional focus paid off big time, allowing them to capture a jaw-dropping 65% market share in that specific region by 2012. They became the undisputed regional king.
And they backed this up with hard infrastructure. They didn't just build a distribution network to ship noodles over, they built heavy manufacturing capacity right in places like Guwahati and Silchar. They essentially established a geographic fortress. Localizing the manufacturing dramatically reduced their supply chain risk and their transportation costs. It's an absolute golden rule for FMCG companies. Don't just build distribution, build your factories close to your consumers.
Which brings us to Part 4, taking on the giant. Grassroots growth against heavily advertised rivals.
This is a classic David and Goliath scenario. You've got giants like Maggi relying on massive, multi-million-dollar advertising budgets. Meanwhile, Wai Wai totally broke the rules. For decades in India, they operated without any major mass media campaign. They grew totally organically. It was an underground, grassroots distribution of taste. Someone would try it for that unique crunch, totally love it, and tell their friends. Instead of attacking Maggi head-on with a clone product that completely leaned into their own ready-to-eat format.
And that grassroots momentum spread like wildfire. They expanded outward from their northeast launchpad to the east, the north, and eventually the south and west. By 2018, the numbers were just undeniable. A reported 28% market share, over
880 crore rupees in turnover and growing at about 20% annually. They were fiercely targeting an ultimate 10,000 crore ambition.
Let's wrap up with Part 5, building a global empire, going from a regional noodle to a multi-category giant. Tracing their journey over the decades is just wild. You start with adapting the brand in Nepal back in '84, then securing that massive Indian beachhead starting in 2006. Fast forward to 2020 during the pandemic, and they are diversifying into sauces, pasta, and snacks. And today, they export to over 35 countries, evolving from a simple noodle company into a true multi-category food giant, with operations running in places like Serbia, Kazakhstan, and Bangladesh.
Now, to give you the full, neutral picture of this source material, we do have to acknowledge that scaling an FMCG brand across borders isn't without some serious hurdles. For instance, in February 2026, the parent company, CG Foods, was ordered by the GST Appellate Tribunal to deposit over 90 lakh rupees regarding a GST rate reduction profiteering issue. It's a very real reminder that scaling rapidly across multiple states and international borders brings significant regulatory and operational complexities that have to be managed day in and day out.
So, if we zoom out, it all comes down to what we can call the Wai Wai flywheel. It is an unstoppable operational engine. Step 1, a distinctive, snackable product creates grassroots trial. Step 2, word of mouth builds rock-solid regional loyalty. Step 3, you plant local manufacturing to boost availability. And finally, Step 4, that leads to geographic expansion, and you start the whole cycle over again.
If there is one huge takeaway from this entire business history, it's simple. Observation and adaptation can be every bit as powerful as pure invention. Binod Chowdhury saw people carrying luggage full of noodles, asked why, and turned that simple curiosity into an international empire.
I want to leave you with this to chew on. Think about what people are already doing around you right now. How might you use regional focus, distinctive positioning, and local adaptation to uncover hidden demand and build your own success story? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you some fantastic insights to carry forward.